Hello everybody, today we're going to be reacting to why animation studios are losing to animation creators on YouTube and other places like that, indie, basically. So let's just hop right into it. It's night out, mm, it's night right now, and that's why I'm not, because, you're gonna wake somebody up. So let's just get into the reaction here.
So as you may or may not know, the last decade has been jam-packed with success stories in the animation sphere. And one of the most famous examples of one of these stories is VivziePop. Now, I know you all know who she is, or maybe some of you don't.
And I think she made Has Been Hotel, and Charlie watches Has Been Hotel. He's a fan of it. It's an adult show, so I haven't seen it. Can't haven't seen it.
Don't know. But in case you've been living under a rock, let me give you a quick rundown. Her full name is Vivian Madrano, and in October 2019, she
Good
uploaded a
name.
little video to YouTube that changed her life forever. But before we get into that, here's a little background on who she is. Apart from being a YouTuber, VivziePop has been a keen animator for the majority of her life, starting small with a webcomic in 2012 called Zoophobia, and that webcomic ran until 2016. And that's where she put down her pencil and started brainstorming on her first animated series. Probably. I don't know. Maybe she still used a pencil. Vivian, comment. Let us know. Did you use a pencil? She'd done smattering of stuff for her thesis at the New York School of Visual Arts in New York City, but everything was leading to this moment, if you catch my drift. After 3 years of development, Vivzie finally released the pilot to her series, Has Been Hotel, a show about Charlie Morningstar, the princess of hell, who tries to rehabilitate demons in her dream hotel to pull the population in her dimension down. Obviously, it's a bit better than that too. It's a black comedy. There's tons of musical numbers, and it was beautifully animated, even back then when it was released as a pilot. Vivzie didn't put out this completely by herself either. She created the animation company of Spindlehorse Toons to spearhead its creation, hoping this short would lead to greater things. And yeah, did you also know that it was called Spindlehorse Toons? Because I didn't before we wrote this. And the crazy thing is, she was totally wrong. The thing got like 7 views and no one ever heard from her ever again. Obviously, that was a lie. At the time I'm writing, her pilot has 121 million views, and 40 million of those came within the first 12 months. I think what drew people to this pilot is just how unapologetically itself it is. The super fast dialogue, the music, the mad character design. It just felt like a hidden gem. Some pilots are guilty of pandering or feeling overproduced. This was raw, and obviously it hit a chord with a lot of people. This is where the pilot started getting a cult following, with fan art flooding timelines. There's whole Discord servers and subreddits about the show popping up. It's trending on YouTube alongside massive musical releases and game trailers. Then animation sites start talking about it seriously, and mainstream outlets take notice because something clearly isn't behaving like a flash in the pan video. So after years of painstaking work with Vivzie either self-funding or using a few generous Patreon pledges, relying on freelance animators and voice artists, Spindlehorse Toons has a following, but it's about to get much, much better than that. The fans were frothing at...
Look how many cosplayers are there, dude. I just see all the different cosplayers. I cosplay sometimes, and it's pretty fun. That's a lot of people cosplaying as characters.
The mouth for more, and with that, the big boys in the industry started circling like vultures. After a few talks with some interested parties, the cinema giant A24 stepped
They're producing the
up and put
Backrooms
pen to
movie and
paper
some
on
other
a
ones,
deal that
dude.
would
I see them
greenlight Has
everywhere.
Been Hotel into a full series.
That's completely different art there, bro.
Vivzie has the pick of the bunch, and really, she could have made it on her own terms if needed. So A24 were probably the most creatively in line with her while giving her a specific type of platform. Also, with the announcement, Spindlehorse is transformed into a fully fledged animation studio, instantly having access to bigger and bigger resources while, you know, keeping the creative soul of the project alive. And after 4 years of development, the show was picked up by Amazon to stream exclusively on their Prime platform in 2023, hoping for release in 2024.
Hold on. their animation like completely changed. It looks like from those little clips there, it was like completely different than the Prime Video. So Prime Video animation and Pilot animation are probably completely different. The artwork, I'm just seeing the artwork and they're completely different, it looks like.
with 2 seasons ordered. At that point, the pilot's view count is cited everywhere as proof this thing already has a built-in audience. And when the show finally premiered in January 2024, it pulls huge attention straight out of the gate. Industry people watch it closely, not just as a show, but as a model, because it proves something uncomfortable, that you don't have to start inside the system to end up there. You can build outside of it. Let fans fund the work. Let momentum grow naturally and arrive at the door with leverage instead of hope.
Yeah, that's completely good. I like that. I like what he's saying there. That is completely nice. I'm not good at commentary.
Last year, the 2nd season of the show dropped, and a 3rd and 4th season has been ordered by Amazon. Away from the show, Spindlehorse keeps growing, opening new branches, starting developing projects that aren't even Vivzi's own ideas anymore, testing whether that same model can lift other creators too. Her channel crosses millions of subscribers, billions of views. That's billions
Views.
with a B,
Almost
by
2
the way.
billion
First
views.
look
That is
feels
wild.
phenomenal, and Hazbin Hotel quietly becomes more than a show. It turns into a blueprint that Vivzi tries to execute yet again with another idea of hers known as Helluva Boss.
Oh, this is the other show. Okay. It looks like it's the same setting. I think the settings are both hell. I think it's the same setting, but it's probably a lot different.
Just a few weeks after the Hazbin pilot dropped, she uploaded another pilot to YouTube on November 25th, 2019. And this one's called, as I'm sure you guessed from what I just said, Helluva Boss. It lives in the same universe, but it's not about demon rehabilitation. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. The show is built around a demon hitman company taking assassination jobs from hell. Same sharp art style, same confidence, but from a totally different angle. And once again, the
Interesting.
response is immediate. Millions of views roll in.
84 million views in 5 years. How? How? I get 20. Ugh. Oh, that's 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 a big number.
Comments light up, fan art starts appearing.
Okay.
And it becomes obvious this is not just a side project people are politely checking out. People want more of it, and they want it more now. Instead of shopping this one around to studios, Madrano makes a very deliberate call. Helluva Boss is staying online on YouTube. So to make that work, Spindlehorse leans hard into fan funding that fueled the first Hazbin pilot. Patreon becomes the backbone, merch becomes the fuel, and YouTube views fill in the gaps where they.
Okay, so Hazbin Hotel is basically only on Prime. Hey, here's a pilot on YouTube. Oh, you want to watch the rest of the series? Go over there to Prime Video. So they're keeping Helluva Boss right here. They're gonna keep it on YouTube. Okay. Still waiting for Amazing Joe Circus and other glitch stuff.
Can. So this online series goes into development for most of 2020, and on October 31st, 2020, it drops. Now, the most important thing about Helluva Boss is that it's not your usual weekly episodic show, although it may have felt like that at the start. Now, with the nature of how it's made, there's going to be gaps, and guess what? It survives anyway. Some episodes rack up tens of millions of views over time, with a few pushing past 50 or even 60.
I don't know what that was. 60 million views. What?
Pilot alone climbs towards the 70 million mark. These are beyond cable TV sized numbers, by the way, except they're happening for free on YouTube with no broadcaster involved. And it's also, you know, a stark contrast to Has Been, a show that was in the pipeline for half a decade and is continuing to drive episode after episode.
See, like, look at the art. Look at the art. It looks completely different from the pilot. I don't know why. I don't know why they wouldn't just keep the same art style. Like, you have one for the pilot that was free, and then you have a whole entire different one for the one that people have to pay for. Why don't you just keep the same art style for the paying it? Or just start with that art? Why do we need to make them different? No.
Millions of views over and over and over again. Now, this has nothing to do with quality of the show, by the way, but more so the fact that independently animating something, if you've got the resources, time, and talent, is way more impactful on an audience. You don't get a comment section under an Amazon Prime episode.
Well,
You're not going to get that immediate feedback. Creators want to connect with their audience, and audiences want to connect with the creator. That's a bridge that gets blocked when you go through usual industry routes. Plus, it allows Helluva Boss to be a steady show. While there are gaps, there's nothing as big as the gaps for Has Been. So the show is almost always in the public eye, but there's a little twist ending here, because as well as their model has worked, last year Amazon decided to pick up the rights to Helluva Boss 2. Oh no! What sellouts? Wrong! Weirdly wrong. No, it's really not.
Ad.
It's weird, I guess. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. Amazon agrees to not only be a streaming partner, but Spindlehorse and Vivzy still get to release the episodes of Helluva Boss as they are made for.
Ooh. Now that's good. That's good right there. So putting both of your show on Prime Video and on YouTube, I think is the best place you can go. I think that's the best place you can go there. It just makes the most sense. So just like Murder Drones was put on Prime Video and YouTube. Same thing with the Making Drill Circus, Netflix, YouTube. I think that's just the best place you can go.
Free on YouTube still, which is practically unheard of. That's crazy. Now, you've got to remember, Amazon aren't stupid. They know that this show is pulling in millions of views per episode, and if a 10th of those people move over to Prime, they will be making some serious cash. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for everyone involved, which just goes to show Vivzy Pop is a pioneer. So while she, Has Been, and Helluva are blowing holes through expectations in the US, something very similar but structurally different is happening on the other side of the.
Yes, we're going into Glitch. Glitch is in Australia. The two brothers live in Australia. They're doing all this school merch stuff right now because they're going back to school.
Planet, and it's easy to miss unless you zoom out just a little bit. In Sydney, Australia, two brothers called Luke and Kevin. I have no idea how to say their name. Let's just put it.
Hold on, let me try and say this. I'm going to butcher it like a lot. Lerdwichtigel. Why did I need to do that?
On the screen, I'm not even going to attempt to mess this up. Are quietly building what turns out to be one of the most important indie animation studios of the last decade.
They just have a rock cardboard cutout and a yoga ball. They're not even using the yoga ball. I thought you use a yoga ball to sit down in your desk.
Okay. They founded Glitch Productions in 2017, but they don't start from zero the way most animation studios do. They're already sitting on a massive online audience thanks to their long-running YouTube channel,
SMG4. I never watched I have seen SMG4 out there a little bit, but I do know that a lot of people loved SMG4. Sad that quit, but they're focusing on Glitch, which I love because they're making Gameoverse. It's coming out on the 7th of May. So I'm going to react to that. So watch out.
4, which by the late 2010s has pulled in millions of subscribers through fast, chaotic gaming parody videos. That channel gives them more than views. It gives them leverage, money from ads, an audience that shows up on command, and proof they understand internet pacing better than most traditional studios ever will. So it's kind of like Vivzy, but their background isn't strictly animation. If anything, their background is YouTube. Their first foray into making something substantial in the space is their sci-fi show, MetaRunner. It's basically
That was the first show on Glitch Productions, I think. Yeah, so them starting on YouTube is so much, I don't know, I just feel like it's just so cool. There's like a big difference between two studios that are like running all of indie animation. I don't know, they all have different backstories, I guess.
a semi-dystopian show about a world where everything revolves around esports.
That looks
Think
kinda
Tron combined with FaZe. Actually, no, don't think that. MetaRunners isn't a super roaring success compared to Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss. But to date, the pilot has about 3.7 million views. Now, that's obviously amazing, but it is a far cry away from the 50, 60, 70, or even 100 million views that you see on something like the Has Been Hotel pilot or the Hell of a Boss episodes. Now, that's still a crazy amount for a YouTube pilot, and sure, there wasn't a load of streamers knocking on their door trying to pick the show up, but there were a few investors, namely Unreal Engine, granted Glitch $500,000 to make the show, as it's mainly animated using that software. But the people willing to sink cash in the show didn't stop.
They're using Unreal Engine to animate? I didn't know that you could use Unreal Engine. I thought that was like you could make games on it and that's it. I don't know how that stuff works.
There. The Australian government put up some cash thanks to the Screen Australia initiative. And incredibly, both Crunchyroll and Epic Games added more financial fuel to the fire.
Crunchyroll. That is an anime. Anime. MetaRunner is not anime. What? Anime is 2D. I'm confused.
Crunchyroll got involved as the art style is very TV anime, and Epic Games couldn't resist getting involved in something that puts professional gaming at the heart of its story. So when MetaRunners premiered in July 2019, it immediately found an audience, and over its first season, it racked up over 10 million viewers.
It's not as much. Give me that. It's not as much as like Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, but that is still crazy. 10 million views for a series is crazy. I'm starstruck. I can barely make 10.
Screen Australia later calls it their most successful online investment at the time, which quietly sends a signal that long-form animation on YouTube isn't just viable, it's competitive. MetaRunner ends up running for 3 full seasons through 2022, totaling 28 episodes, and it gives Glitch something priceless.
28 episodes. I bet that even though they got more view, like Spindle Horse definitely got a lot more views, but they definitely didn't have as many episodes. So I don't know. I think that there's more the quality's a little bit less on MetaRunners, but there's more quantity. So I don't know what is better, quantity or quality in this here. Or they both have good quality, and I'm just losing my mind.
Proof that they can sustain a serialized story across years without a major studio backing them. But after that, a lot of studios or creatives would feel burnout, right? Not Glitch. Instead of slowing down after one hit, they do something most indie studios can't afford to do, and they expand sideways. They formally separate their comedy content from their animation work by launching a dedicated Glitch channel, which sounds small, but it does matter. It tells audiences and partners that this is not a side hustle.
Wait, so MetaRunners was on SMG4, and then they made a separate channel for Glitch. Alright, I thought that they were already moving on to Glitch and stuff. But no, this is Metarunners was on SMG4. Then they're going to expand Metarunners onto Glitch Studios and then add like Murder Drones and Amazing Real Circus and all those other shows that are like really good.
Anymore. It's a studio pipeline. Removing comedy adds that layer to them, basically saying, we're serious now. Not that they weren't serious before, but you
Zoom in.
get what I'm saying. Then in 2021, they released Sunset Paradise, a shorter
I see that. I've seen this before. I just never watched it. Never got to watch it.
action series spun out of the SMG4 universe, funded again through Screen Australia. It doesn't hit Metarunner numbers, but it doesn't need to. What it proves is that Glitch can run multiple productions in parallel, hit deadlines, release episodes weekly once production is finished, and keep audience attention moving from one project to the next. And that is studio behavior. It's the moment that Glitch stops feeling like a YouTube experiment and starts feeling like infrastructure. Now,
That hit. Hold on. That hit looked personal.
the moment that Glitch stops
How did he do that? Bro went.
feeling like a YouTube experiment and starts feeling like infrastructure. Now, the next real turning point comes when Glitch
Murder
opens
Drones.
the door to outside creators. Murder
Yes.
Drones launches with a pilot in late 2021, created by indie animator Liam Vickers, and it
So, okay.
immediately stands out. It has a much darker tone, CG animation, horror comedy energy, and a very different writing voice from Glitch's previous work. The pilot pulls in millions of views and fast. And when the full series rolls out between 2022 and
4 years. 79 million views. It deserves the love. Just as much as like all Spindle Horses stuff and all that. It all deserves the love.
2024, episodes regularly land in the 5 to 10 million view range, some climbing much, much higher over time. Again, these guys are acting more as a studio now. They found a creative who has basically made something that could surpass their own work, and they give him the platform to do so. Internally, Glitch later admits earlier projects were produced at a loss, while they built audience and reputation. But Murder Drones finally overperforms enough to properly pay back that investment. But this is where things are about to explode for the company, because in 2023, Glitch releases the pilot.
Yes. This, to this day, Amazing Real Circus Pilot is still their most popular video on their channel. This turned their channel upside down. This changed literally everything.
Pilot for the Amazing Digital Circus, created with Gooseworks, and the internet basically latches onto it instantaneously. It snatches over 100 million views.
It's at like 130 million views right now. I'm not kidding.
Views in the first month alone. There is clips everywhere, TikTok trends, memes all over the place, fan art galore. It is arguably the most watched independent animation pilot ever released online. It currently stands at a mammoth 400 and
I was lying. I thought I knew the number. I did not. 400 million views. 400 million views. 400 million views. That has to be like a record at some point. Actually, wait, no, there's videos with like 1 billion views.
5 million views at the time of writing. If anything, it only further cements
Ugh.
their idea that they could go it alone and create something super watchable without going down regular industry routes. Like, by this point, they're employing over 100 people across animation, writing, modeling, production management, and pipeline development. They are not outsourcing everything ad hoc anymore. They're building systems and letting multiple shows exist at once. Funding-wise, Glitch takes a noticeably different path from Spindlehorse, but like the Has-Been creator, as their shows grow, they layer in merchandise and fan funding.
I need to buy one of these. I need to go and I need to buy some type of plushie and I need to put it in my background or something. Because I've watched the show since the pilot came out. I love it. I have the money to do it. I just need to buy a plushie. I need to. Hey, if you want, comment down below which plushie I should buy, and I'll see if I can buy it.
Because, well, it'd be rude not to. Anyways, after The Amazing Digital Circus goes viral, Netflix steps in and then they
Yeah.
acquire streaming rights. But like with Helluva
15 minutes into the video, we've had 2 ads. It's halfway done.
Boss, they don't get full exclusivity. Think of them as just a secondary distribution lane, which Spindlehorse pioneered with Helluva. But then
Yeah, I've seen from Glitch. They have stated multiple times that they are always going to keep their shows on YouTube. Always. They're always going to do it. Always. And I am happy about that, because that means that I can react to any new series, because I can't react to well, I could react to Amazing Digital Circus episode 9 if I can't see it in theaters.
in 2025, Amazon Prime follows suit, adding Murder Drones to its catalog
Murder Drones is so good. It's such a good.
and striking broader deals to support Glitch's future shows. Again, without pulling them
That was a flashbang, bro.
off YouTube. That is 2 major studios helping fund these shows that still get to exist on a platform that people can watch for free. That is huge. This allows the company to breathe a bit better financially and know that they can start pouring more back into their passion projects, like the webcomic Lackadaisy or
Oh yeah, didn't they made Lackadaisy into an animation, I think. Yeah, because I think I saw somebody react to it a little bit ago.
pilots like the Gaslight District or
That
Knights
was
of Guinevere.
yeah. Why they need to make more episodes of the They need to make more episodes for the Gaslight District and Knights of Guinevere. Those pilots were so good. I need more. I need more.
Who you might know is made by Dana freaking Terrace and alumni from Owl House. I want to make sure that's
Oh, I've seen a bit of that show, maybe.
clear as well. Like, they create a distinct collection of in-house originals and co-produced stuff, again giving them the best of both worlds. What started as 2 brothers with a gaming channel turns into a multi-project animation studio operating across
That's just so cool. 2 brothers making Mario videos that are like funny and fast paced, to being a whole entire animation studio making some of the greatest shows of all time. Like, that is actually that's so cool. Love that.
continents, platforms, and business models. And speaking of Lackadaisy, I do want to go into a little more detail around that webcomic, because that in and of itself is a really cool story. In the late 2000s, a woman by the name of Tracy J. Butler created Lackadaisy, a comic about a rivalry between 2 bootlegging groups of cats who are trying to smuggle.
That truck is on fire. And he is saying, "Are you questioning my logic?" Yes, I am.
smuggle alcohol during the Prohibition. Now, that's an elevator pitch already, but
Is that
trust me,
Raiden?
if you've read it, the mood it creates is just as good. It's soaked in attitude. It feels jazzy, sultry. Basically, it has all the hallmark of a classic comic. It's certainly not
Oh.
gag strip stuff or quick hitting. It was pretty groundbreaking in the fact that it has pretty slow character development, and it thrives when using long-form storytelling. Plus, the noir-y illustrations are
The fact that they're all cats in like suits, I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, let's just make everybody a cat who wants alcohol during the Prohibition. Yeah.
so good. You can see why it's lasted the test.
Night. Night. By the... Hey, hi. Hey, hi.
Hey, I would sleep with you if you let me. Mommy. Yes, you do.
Alright. As we were saying, sorry, I knew that was gonna happen. As we were going.
Of time. Considering the internet is in the era of instant gratification, the fact that Lackadaisy has lasted for nearly 2 decades is kind
2 decades. 2 decades.
of crazy. But there's another angle to this though. Back then, animating things wasn't as easy or as cheap. I know. Things aren't cheap now, but they were more expensive back then, and YouTube wasn't really as viable for this kind of stuff. So over time, Tracy thought, what if my comic could, move? Surely if it's this good as a comic, it'd be even better as an animation. So Tracy teams up with director Fable Siegel, and together they begin exploring the idea of an animated adaptation. They have one goal in mind: to create an adult animation that is super faithful to the webcomic, but they kind of run into the same problems. Studios love the idea, but it's not for them, or we don't know what to do with it. It's in a strange part of media where it's for adults. The characters look cuddly, and it's technically a historical piece. Now, to us, that sounds super interesting, and we loved it. But you've got to understand that these studios want to make safe bets with their cash. But despite this disappointment,
Safe bets? Dude, that show sounds good. I don't know why they would reject that. Like, come on. It has such an interesting concept that I would be like, yeah, get in here, let's do it.
rather than shelving the idea or sanding it down to fit somebody else's template, Butler and Siegel make the same pivot other creators have. They try to prove the demand directly. In early 2020, they launch a Kickstarter campaign to fund an animated Lackadaisy
Squidward meme.
short. Not a full season, not a huge commitment, just a proof of concept strong enough to demonstrate what this world could look like if it were put on the screen. With guidance from Iron Circus Comics, who already understand how crowdfunding works when it's treated as community building rather than charity, they set what feels like a modest goal: $85,000. Enough to produce a roughly 10-minute animated short that could stand on its own. Now, $85,000
$85,000 for 10 minutes of animation. What?
well, that's gonna take them like a year or something, right?
Psych! That's the wrong number!
Wrong. The campaign hits its funding within the first 24 hours, and instead of slowing down, it accelerates. By the end of the month-long campaign, nearly 6,000 backers have pledged support, pushing the total to around $330,000. Stretch goals unlocked.
$330,000.
One
That's a lot of money.
after another, expanding the scope of the project from a short into a full 27-minute animated pilot, essentially an episode-length film, complete with an extra post-credit scene because fans quite literally ask for more and pay for it up front. At this point, Lackadaisy becomes one of the most successful animation Kickstarters of the year, and the message is hard to ignore. There is an audience for this kind of animation, and they are willing to put real money behind these projects. That funding immediately changes what's possible behind the scenes. Instead of a tiny team stretching themselves thin, the project grows into a full production. Over the next 2.5
god. That is... That's awesome.
Half years, more than 150 artists, animators, background painters, cleanup artists, composition, and voice actors contribute to the Lackadaisy pilot. Backers are kept involved throughout the process with frequent updates, behind-the-scenes streams, work-in-progress footage, artwork reveals, and an active Discord community.
Discord. You want to know what else? You want to know what else has a Discord? Our community. Yep. We have a Discord mentioned in the last video. It's going to be in the description. So if you want to join the Discord, and yeah, you can talk to people like Caden and Gary and even me on Discord and chats. Sometimes you can catch us on the voice. Sometimes maybe. But hey, if you like my videos and stuff, link in the description. Join the Discord.
By the time the pilot is nearing completion, there's already a built-in audience that feels personally invested in seeing it succeed, because in a very real sense, they helped make it exist. When the finished Lackadaisy pilot finally drops on YouTube on March 29, 2023, it peaks at number 4 overall, sitting along
2023. Oh, this isn't as recent as I thought it was. Oh,
alongside major studio uploads, despite having no marketing budget beyond its own community. Within days, it passes 4 million
how many days to reach 4 million views?
views,
Bro.
which is already impressive, but within the month, it cleared 10 million.
10 million views in the first month. Holy
views.
crap.
And as of today, it is sitting at 18 million views. Okay, so it's popular, but what do people actually think? Well, viewers and animation outlets praise the fluid 2D animation, the sepia tone color palette, the expressive character acting, and how closely the film captures the tone of the original comic without flattening it into something safer or sillier. Commentators point out how unusual it is to see historical adventures in noir style applied to adult animation online, and how refreshing it feels compared to the dominance of more sitcom-y stuff. One article famously frames the success as proof that the internet still works, that the early promise of artists rallying global audiences without gatekeepers is still alive and well. And this popularity means that merchandise sales spike, with fans picking up comic reprints, soundtrack albums, and character items tied to the pilot's release. The comments section is filled with tens of thousands of messages.
I had a cat named Rocky who ran away years ago, and now I'm convinced this is canon to what happened to them. That is, sorry, man. I don't think your cat is in Lackadaisy. That's that earbud switch was. Mom, give me 27 minutes and 35 seconds, then I'll go to sleep. That's kind of wild.
Not just praise, but detailed analysis, favorite scenes, and more importantly, they want more. So in mid-2023, they launched a second crowdfunding campaign, this time through BackerKit, aimed at funding a full first season of Lack.
You're asking $1 million. $1 million for 5 episodes season. That is $1 million.
Daisy as an animated series, and the numbers are higher now, roughly $125,000 per episode as a baseline, because the scope is larger and expectations are clearer. And once again, the audience shows up. The campaign raises over $2 million.
Yeah, take the number for 5 episodes and double it. Double it. Make 10 episode season. You know, make 2 seasons. How about you? Yeah. Somebody probably went, huh, let's just give them $1 million right here. Double what they wanted for a 5 episode season is wild.
Enough to fund 5 full episodes at around 20 minutes each, with stretch goals unlocking additional possibilities. So yeah, it's happening. And as you can tell from the dollar amounts we're talking about here, animation is not cheap. It is very expensive. What's especially...
Well, yeah, that's obvious, but yeah, that's still wild.
Telling is what happens next. Instead of immediately selling the project off, the Lackadaisy team partners with an indie studio that understands
Glitch. The last Glitch Direct, they talked about it a little bit. I didn't fully understand, to be honest.
this ecosystem from the inside, none other than Glitch Productions. In 2025, the Aussie boys come aboard and are co-producing the series while allowing Tracy full creative control. So this is basically indie animation's
So Glitch is basically funding the whole thing. They're like, hey, you want to make this? Here are some money.
exception because it's one independent creator helping another. As of the end of 2025, the Lackadaisy animated series is in active production, with plans to release episodes online in the same spirit as the pilot. Now, that's what I call a success story. However, the next person I wanted to look at, while their story contains some of the biggest highs we've touched on today, it easily ends with the lowest low. And that is the story of Olin Rogers. Like the Glitch brothers, at first Olin was a part-time YouTuber, making videos about trying candy and doing dares. But over the years, there was a sudden shift in his content where he started to create things that were more, well, cinematic. He started filming sketches, little shorts, and eventually tried his hand at animating a few different shorts like his Gary Space series. Not everything in those videos is animated, but you guys get where I'm going with this. Then in 2016, Olin kinda hit his fans out of nowhere with a pilot for a show called Final Space, which is about a rogue astronaut named Gary and his sidekick, a planet-destroying alien named Mooncake. The pilot was a roaring success, not really because of its views, because even as of today, it only has 3 million views, which is a lot, obviously, but when we're talking about things such as Digital Circus or Murder Drones, there's a bit of a difference there. But because of that, thanks to the pilot, it was picked up by TBS, but more specifically, Conan O'Brien saw the short, loved it, and invited Olin down to pitch the show to TBS. And with Conan's blessing, Final Space was greenlit. Now, for someone who started with sketch comedy and vlogs, this is a near impossible jump, YouTube to television. In the past, this hasn't usually worked out. But without the usual decade of gatekeeping in between, Rogers is paired with experienced showrunner David Sachs, and Final Space officially enters production as a real network animated series. Season 1 airs in early 2018 on TBS, 10 episodes that introduce Gary, Mooncake, and a surprisingly heavy space drama storyline hiding underneath all the jokes. Critics respond positively, fans respond emotionally, and a lot of people are genuinely surprised by how sincere the show is. Sure, it's super silly, but how cute is Mooncake? The show isn't afraid of loneliness, grief, or trauma, and that tone feels very much like Rogers himself, finally having access to a bigger canvas. The story that started as a 7-minute YouTube upload has grown wings, exactly the way every internet creator secretly hopes their work might. But just as things were going so well, the ground started to shift under the show. Corporate restructures kick in, Warner Media changes shape, and Final Space gets moved from TBS to Adult Swim for its second season. On paper, that sounds fine. Adult Swim is known for adult animation, but behind the scenes, the fit isn't right. Executives push for a more episodic, sitcom-friendly structure, something easier to slot into a late-night schedule. And while Rogers wants to keep telling a long, interconnected story that builds emotional weight over time, the tension is there, visible in interviews later. But the show somehow survives. Season 2 airs, and the problems behind the scenes show, but they manage to patch.
I think this shows how much studios try and control people's shows. They're trying to make people change up their ideas in their shows just so the studios can try and make more money off of them. I don't like that. That's bad.
Up their relationship, and Rogers is allowed to lean fully into the darker, serialized arc he'd always planned for the 3rd season. Season 3 lands in 2021, and emotionally, it's the show at its strongest. The stakes are higher, the comedy sharper, the story grounded, and it ends on a massive cliffhanger that clearly is not meant to be the end.
You may have noticed a
except that it is. And I don't mean that Olin meant this to happen. I mean the show got canceled. In 2022, Olin confirms that
it got canceled on a cliffhanger. I absolutely hate that. I hate when a show gets canceled while they end it on a cliffhanger. Just let me see the rest of the show. That makes me so mad, I want to punch something.
his show is being pulled off the air. But this isn't a normal cancellation. Instead, Final Space is getting erased because after the Warner Media and Discovery merger, the company starts aggressively cutting content for tax write-offs, and Final Space got caught in that financial black hole, meaning that it's not allowed to exist anywhere. Streaming versions vanish, episodes are removed, social media accounts announce the show has effectively been wiped. There's no DVDs, no Blu-rays, no physical copies for fans to hold on to. Rogers explains publicly that once existing license expire, there will actually be no legal way to watch Final Space.
That's so sad because this guy basically worked his entire life on the show, and it basically just got taken down and will basically never be able to be watched ever again just because of tax write-offs. I don't even know what that means.
Anywhere. And with that, any chance of the vast majority of people finding it. You're not going to pirate something if you're not aware it exists. 5 years of work, gone. Over a decade of dreams, gone. Worst of all, not because people didn't care, but because it was cheaper to pretend it never existed in the first place. And as you can imagine, Olin's devastated. I mean, the show he poured his heart and soul into has been ripped away from him. Years and years of blood, sweat, and tears, gone in an instant. So, Olin returns to YouTube to let the fans know what's happening as he fights to save something. Fans rally around him with the hashtag #RenewFinalSpace. They're flooding social media trying to save something that realistically has already been buried. Rogers never promises a miracle, but he refuses to stop fighting, and after a couple of years of legal battles, he does come away with a small victory. Warner Brothers Discovery allows him a one-time license to finish the story as a graphic novel. Sure, he
Oh, okay. I was about to be like, bro, that's sad. But okay, he actually gets to finish his story, which I love that now. But still, please, can we just get him to finish his show animated?
doesn't get to do the whole big send-off for the show, but he does finally get to end things how he wanted. He's currently selling the book on his site, Save Final Space, and it's due to be released sometime in the middle of this year. As the saying goes, as one door closes, another one opens. Because while most people would let this situation beat them, Olin doesn't. Instead, he puts together an idea for a new animated series, and that's called Godspeed. He first announced it back in 2022. It's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi story about a young scientist named Iris? I haven't actually watched the show, so I'm going to assume it's called Iris from this point forward. I'm sorry if I get that wrong. Iris is searching for her father and
The animation looks a lot different from some of the other like studios and stuff. It looks like a unique animation. I kind of like it, to be honest.
world torn apart by climate disaster. The tone is different to Final Space, nowhere near as goofy, and Rogers openly describes it as a rebirth, not just creatively, but emotionally. This time, no network, no streamer, no executives to please. Goes straight to Kickstarter. The response, immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the campaign raises 6 figures, eventually pulling in over $400,000.
So much money.
Far beyond the original goal. That money funds a full 28-minute pilot produced with indie studio Lightfold before featuring a serious voice cast including Troy Baker, Tom Kenny, and
They got Tom Kenny in this, bro. They got Tom Kenny in this, bro.
Claudia Black. When the pilot premiered on YouTube in December 2023, it managed to pull in over 1 million views.
That's crazy.
And was met with genuine excitement. It's not a case of, wanting something good to happen to a guy who deserves it. This is a genuinely interesting idea for a series, and the fans want to see it. So second Kickstarter for episode 2 launches pretty much immediately and clears $100,000
All right.
in hours, eventually hitting around 300.
In hours? This guy made $100,000 in hours? Hours. Yeah. Let me just throw $100,000 at you in hours. It took him a couple hours to make more money than I've had in my entire life. Bruh.
$1,000. Pre-production begins, and once again, Rogers is in control, working directly with artists, letting them experiment. Godspeed exists because Final Space died, but it also exists because Rogers learned exactly what independence actually costs, more specifically, what it protects. In many ways, you could say Olin's story is a cautionary tale, but I like to look at it as an outlier rather than a rule. Plus, if anything, it reignited his love for making things on his terms again, and that's the main through line for all of these creators, is that even if they didn't have the success, they would have done it their own way anyways, as long as they had the means and financial capability. So when it comes to look at Olin Rogers with the story of Lackadaisy alongside Hazbin Hotel, Hell of a Boss, and Glitch's growing slate, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. From roughly 2018 onward, independent animation stops being a novelty and starts behaving like a parallel to the industry. Creators initiate projects themselves, fund them through fans, grants, or hybrid models, release them directly to global platforms, usually for free, and use concrete metrics like views, backers, and engagement as leverage for creative control. They have power now. They don't have to ask, they have to act, because studios and streamers don't discover these projects. They respond to them after the audience already has. These projects succeed because they treat audiences as part of the creative team almost. They're not targets or anything like that. Lackadaisy in particular proves that adult animation doesn't have to mean comedy, and fans are willing to support stories with atmosphere, history, and
Yeah, I don't really like that they have to make that a bunch of adult animations are just have to be comedy. Like, if somebody has a show that they want to make an adult show, why does it have to be a comedy? Like, why can't we make it the tone that they want to make it? It doesn't have to be a comedy. It can be just their own story. There's just too many comedies, I guess.
emotional weight if they're given the chance. It's that old theory, you know, that a lot of what's out there is an industry telling people what they want. Whereas with indie animation, the people get to tell the industry what they want. Now, if any of you are out there now watching this, wondering whether to make that comic, animation, film, anything like that, remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time, it's right now. So go on, get to work. So I hope you enjoyed looking through some of the highs and lows of indie animation. If you want to check out some more animated action here on the channel, click this video here. YouTube thinks
Alright, that was so good. Okay, that showed some really good points of why indie, like all of these animation people, are doing so much better and absolutely becoming the big people in animation these days, because they know exactly what they want to do and they follow that, and they also try and get a bunch of stuff from their community instead of telling their community, hey, this is what you're getting, deal with it. Well, that's going to be the end of the video, guys, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure to join the Discord, link in the description. I'll see you next time. Bye.